It's been 9 weeks since COVID-19 hit North America with full force. Today, I'd like to talk about how we're all doing with that. Hi there, my name is Lee Ann Hogle. Welcome to this channel of weekly reflections about what it means to be a spiritual being, having a physical experience, wherein I usually relate a passage in the Bible to what's happening today. So, let us begin. 9 weeks is a short period in the span of a lifetime. Yet it seems to me I have transitioned through several major phases, maybe even a whole lifetime, since COVID-19 became a serious threat in my hometown. Collectively, we have suffered a tremendous loss. Life has changed overnight. And it still blows my mind to think about this aspect of the crisis. Never before has all of humanity experienced the same threat at the same time. The losses are multiple and compounded one upon the other. There's loss of freedom of movement, loss of income and job security, loss of the ability to see our loved ones, loss of scheduled and needed surgeries, loss of vacation plans, postponements of weddings and funerals and new jobs. And in the midst of all these losses, we have the actual loss of life and the grief that so many are suffering in isolation. World-renowned experts on grief and loss, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler, have identified 5 basic phases that we commonly experience when going through loss. The first would be denial. Let's see. Well, I don't really think COVID-19 is any worse than any other flu virus. I watched with fascination how the Chinese built that huge hospital for COVID patients in record time. But what's that got to do with me? Secondly, there's anger. What do you mean I can't go into Walmart with my partner? No one's going to tell me who I can or cannot enter a store with. Thirdly, we may try bargaining. If I put the hand sanitizer right by the door and I stand 6 feet away from every other person and I wear gloves while serving the buffet, we should be okay to hold a small indoor reception to mark the birthday of a beloved member of our community. Fourthly, we may enter depression. Are you seriously saying we can't go back to church until the fall? Or maybe next fall? And then fifthly comes acceptance. Okay, if we can't have high school prom this year, let's make a photo tribute to our grads and put them on giant posters all along the high school driveway. Kudos to Alexander Galt High School in Lennoxville for doing just that. Loss is experienced by each of us in different ways and in different times. For me, it has often been more of a cyclical process than a linear one. When my son was first diagnosed with chronic disease at 8 years old, I took all the steps necessary to make sure he was healthy. I eventually accepted our new way of living, but nevertheless, I would cycle back to disbelief and denial from time to time. And through all of that process, I often felt all alone. No one else could possibly understand what I was going through, not even my partner. It often felt like a solitary journey through hell. This feeling of being all alone in the midst of loss, that's what I'd like to talk about today. Collectively, we experience the trauma, the fear, and the uncertainty about the future because of COVID-19. Yet, we experience this separated from one another, locked away in safety here in our homes, but without the human contact we most need to feel a measure of comfort. We have become talking heads on Zoom and Messenger or familiar voices over the telephone, but it doesn't make up for the loss of human contact, does it? How are we going to get through this? I imagine the original disciples of Jesus must have questioned themselves in this way when their leader was executed. For 3 short years, their hopes for a better life and a better world had been enlivened by the teachings of Jesus. And now he was gone. What were they to do? Today's scripture passage is from the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 15 to 21. Allow me to paraphrase. Jesus tells the disciples, "After I die, I won't leave you orphaned and all alone in your grief and loss. The Spirit of truth will come and dwell within you, and this Spirit is already within you. If you continue to follow my teachings, your relationship with the Spirit of all life, this Spirit of all life that I call Father, this relationship will be strengthened so much that you will discover that you and I dwell together within this holiness of all life, and life will take on a richer, deeper meaning." Finding meaning in the face of loss is the topic of David Kessler's most recent book. Although I have not yet read it, and it is, by the way, out of stock on Amazon, the ability to find meaning in the midst of loss is something that inspires me about friends and strangers alike. One father with a son suffering from mental illness directed his energies to helping the physically and mentally handicapped to find adequate housing. One mother whose daughter was killed by a drunken driver started an organization to educate youth about the dangers of drinking and driving. Personally, I became involved in an organization that brought children exposed to the Chernobyl nuclear accident here to Canada for short health respite visits. I can't tell you how rewarding it felt to be able to help other children despite feeling helpless towards my own son's illness. Finding meaning in the midst of loss allows us to cope with and even transform our grief. When I listen to this inner voice of the Spirit of truth that abides within us all, I feel a certain reassurance that I am not orphaned or abandoned in this time of crisis. I imagine this Spirit of truth as an invisible thread connecting all of us and assuring us that we do count, that we are important, and that we will get through this. As we say here in Quebec, ça va bien aller. Let's listen to this Spirit. Together we shall overcome. Together we will rise stronger than ever before. Thank you for listening to today's message. If you are interested in supporting this ministry, in becoming a part of any of the acts of service our church is involved in, or in attending one of our Zoom church services, you can contact us via the website that is listed below this video. We are currently focusing on helping our seniors navigate the technology so that they can maintain contact with their loved ones, as well as maintaining an outdoor self-serve food bank. So until we meet again, blessings on the journey.